At just 14 years old, a seemingly shy girl named Courtney Hadwin stepped onto the stage of America's Got Talent and, within moments, silenced the entire auditorium with her explosive voice. What followed was a whirlwind of viral fame, standing ovations, and the life-changing golden buzzer from Judge Howie Mandel, an act that turned her into a national sensation overnight. Yet, behind the glittering lights, the applause, and the internet virality lay a painful and hidden reality that few people knew. Just a year later, in 2019, her parents would walk into her room to find her holding a pair of scissors to her throat. She was not attempting to end her life, but instead trying to destroy the very voice that had made her famous. The same voice Simon Cowell once called supernatural, the same voice that had mesmerized millions, but had become a burden too heavy for a young teenager to carry. Courtney Hadwin was born on July 6, 2004 in Hartlepool, an industrial town in northeastern England. She was raised in a modest working-class family. Her mother, Anne-Marie, worked nights cleaning offices, while her father, Paul, spent long hours at the local shipyard. Their day-to-day lives were ordinary, filled with the quiet struggles of balancing bills and raising children in a town with limited opportunities. Nothing in their routine hinted at the extraordinary events that would later come. But everything began to change when Courtney was 8 years old. One day, while listening to her grandfather's Janis Joplin records, she began to sing. What emerged from her small frame was not the voice of a child, but something raw, gritty, soulful, and powerful beyond her ears. Her parents were stunned, at first, believing someone else must have been in the house. Neighbors, too, were drawn to the sound, listening through thin walls in disbelief. Later, doctors explained that Courtney had an unusually rare vocal cord structure that gave her voice a smoky, mature tone, something that typically develops only after years of wear or damage. She had it naturally as a child, as though her voice belonged to another era entirely. Despite this extraordinary gift, Courtney's inner world was turbulent. From an early age, she suffered from debilitating social anxiety. Between the ages of 6 and 12, she spoke so little outside of her immediate family that her school records showed some years in which she had uttered fewer than 100 words to classmates and teachers combined. Often communicated through handwritten notes rather than speech, even when asking something as simple as permission to use the bathroom. At lunch, she would hide in closets or corners to avoid conversations altogether. Her psychologist later noted that her anxiety mirrored levels typically found in adults suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. For her parents, helping her was not easy. The family's finances were stretched thin, and therapy came at a painful cost. They often faced impossible decisions, whether to heat their home in the winter or pay for sessions meant to ease their daughter's suffering. Over time, they spent more than £3,000 on treatments just to help her feel slightly safer in the world. In 2014, when Courtney was 10 years old, the first real shift came. She entered a small local talent show, determined yet terrified. When she stepped onto the stage in front of an audience of 127 people, she froze completely. For half a minute, she stood, trembling under the spotlight, unable to move. Her grandfather, Bill Hadwin, feared he would have to carry her off the stage. But then the opening notes of Proud Mary began to play, and something inside her unlocked. Suddenly, she burst into performance, radiant, confident, and wild. The crowd erupted in applause. That lasted for over 4 minutes with some audience members moved to tears. A video of the performance was uploaded online and went viral almost instantly, gathering more than 50,000 views in just 2 days. For Bill, a retired steel worker, that moment changed everything. Though he knew little about music or the internet, he became her biggest supporter. Over the next 4 years, he drove more than 47,000 miles in his aging Ford Focus to take Courtney to auditions and gigs across the country. He carefully recorded every detail of those trips in a notebook, gas, hotels, meals, and spent his entire $8,400 pension to fund recording sessions. He even sold his personal tools. When Courtney had an audition in London, he drove 312 miles and slept in his car to save money. Every sacrifice was born of love and unwavering belief in his granddaughter's talent. By 2017, Courtney was ready to audition for the Voice Kids UK. By then, she had already faced rejection from 3 different local competitions. Told that her style was too unusual and difficult to categorize. She was not pop. She was not classical. She was something else entirely. Still painfully shy off stage. She could barely make eye contact. But the moment she opened her mouth to sing Tina Turner's Nutbush City Limits, she transformed. She became fierce, electrifying, and alive. One judge called her performance supernatural. Another was left speechless. Though she did not win, the title went to Jess Foley. Even Jess later admitted that Courtney deserved the victory. Industry experts agreed, though many believed her sound was too intense for a family-friendly program. Looking back, losing that competition may have been a blessing. It freed her from a restrictive contract and left her available for bigger opportunities abroad. Yet, with her rising fame came devastating consequences at school. Courtney became the target of brutal bullying and online ridicule. Classmates mocked her as the screaming girl, turning her unique voice into a weapon against her. The teasing escalated into verbal harassment, and teachers often found her in tears. Her grades slipped. The very thing that had captivated millions was now being used to isolate her. Despite everything, she did not give up. Her parents made the heart-wrenching decision to do whatever it would take to get her to America to audition for America's Got Talent. Living in a small village in County Durham, they had limited means. Paul, who also worked part-time as a teaching assistant, took out a £3,000 loan against their home. They sold their car, cancelled their family vacation, and poured every penny into getting Courtney to Los Angeles. Even then, there was no guarantee she would be accepted. The day of her audition nearly ended before it began. On July 10, 2018, she suffered a full-blown panic attack in her hotel room. She couldn't speak, couldn't move. Her mother had to dress her, carry her down the stairs when the elevator broke, and coax her into an Uber. Courtney vomited twice on the way to the theater and begged to turn back. To calm her, her mother whispered the lyrics to Hard to Handle, the song she would perform. 4 months leading up to that day, from March to July, Courtney had rehearsed obsessively, performing the song 247 times, tracking each attempt in a purple notebook. Her family had converted their garage into a makeshift studio, and she trained for hours daily until neighbors complained about the noise. She sweated through outfits, lost weight, and strained her voice. Her vocal coach worried she was pushing herself too far, but Courtney refused to stop. Even with all of that preparation, her dream, nearly collapsed. Simon Cowell's team had already rejected her twice earlier that year, once for sounding too similar to other rock singers and again for lacking the X factor for American audiences. But just 12 days before filming, a contestant dropped out due to visa issues, and a casting assistant who remembered Courtney begged producers to give her a chance. That stroke of fate changed her life. When she finally walked onto the stage, she looked terrified. Her hands shook and her speaking voice barely rose above a whisper. But the moment she began to sing Otis Reading's Hard to Handle, she transformed once again. Her voice exploded with power, grit, and emotion. The audience leapt to their feet. The judges were stunned. Just 45 seconds into the performance, Howie Mandel slammed the golden buzzer, the fastest in AGT history. He later compared the moment to Clive Davis discovering Janis Joplin. He didn't wait for Simon or the other judges. He didn't need to. The video of her audition hit 1 million views in just 6 hours. By the end of the week, it had surpassed 130 million, and Tyra Banks later revealed it eventually climbed past 110 million views worldwide. Years later, Simon Cowell admitted it was the biggest mistake of his judging career not to press his buzzer, saying he had been frozen, too stunned to move. A girl who once hidden closets to avoid speaking had stunned the world into silence and then applause. But even after that triumph, Courtney's life was far from a fairy tale. The next chapter brought relentless pressure. She was suddenly flying across continents, fielding interviews, and meeting industry giants. Yet, she remained deeply introverted, uncomfortable with media appearances, and reluctant to smile on camera. Critics accused her of arrogance or of being fake, unaware that she was still just a scared teenager trying to survive. Behind the scenes, she battled crushing self-doubt. She scoured YouTube comments, fixating on the hateful ones, and grew increasingly insecure. Though her team tried to shield her, the cruelty seeped in. People criticized everything: her facial expressions, her clothing, even accusing her of faking her anxiety for sympathy. The weight became too much, and she began to withdraw from the spotlight, choosing instead to focus on her music privately. While her peers studied for exams and spent time with friends, Courtney was navigating contracts, appearances, and global expectations. Still, she never stopped singing. For her, music was not just art. It was survival. On stage, anxiety loosened its grip. In songs, she could exist without judgment. She began writing her own material, blending rock, soul, and blues into raw reflections of her pain and resilience. Her voice evolved, richer, deeper, and more refined, yet still carrying that unmistakable edge that once froze Simon Cowell in his tracks. She rejected offers that would have turned her into a cookie-cutter pop star, choosing instead to stay true to herself. Fans who had followed her since AGT remained loyal, offering words of